the young Frisk falls into this underground world inhabited by a community of playful monsters. Your primary objective is to get back to the surface, but in order to do so you have to traverse the entire underground world and reach what they call the barrier. The many interactions you have with the characters may either change your mind about leaving or further piss you off. The decisions you make over the course of the game will impact the entire storyline. The game's jam-packed with secrets and fun side events. Tie that to a nice battle mechanic and an awesome soundtrack, and you have yourself a simple yet amazing masterpiece of a game. I don't even own this game. Thing is, I have a bit of a negative bias against this game. The title, the theming, the overall vibe of the game, something about it is off. It's understandable that the setting's supposed to be dark because it's the underground, but the game seems a tad too depressive. The title is entirely misleading. The game labels itself as an RPG where nobody has to die. Two bold-faced lies right at the title. This isn't an RPG in almost any way. It's a story-oriented game where you interact with different characters. Unlike what the initial setup suggests, there are no experience points. The game instead punishes you for it, and reveals EXP to stand for execution points, because it only measures your level of violence. So, no rewarding leveling mechanic, no immense variety of equipment, and hardly what one could consider an open world. You don't even name your character, you instead name the villain and play as Frisk. It's not an RPG, it's a story game. Nobody has to die. Yeah, right. Tell that to Asgore when he gets murdered by Flowey at the end of your first run. The very concept of a game where you can murder characters forever, including secondary mobs like Froggets, already lowers the general level of light-mindedness in the game. It all boils down to the giant anvil the game aims to drop on hasty, violent people. A noble goal, but nonetheless a troll. So there you have it, an RPG where nobody has to die. This game was recommended to me by a creepy college friend I once had called Chuck. He had been recommending some weird-ass demonic games. I'm not talking about normal games like Diablo, which is cool by the way. I'm talking about the obscure stuff you really wouldn't want to even have in your PC. After tossing about 3 of those in my direction, Chuck comes up with Undertale. By the look and vibe of the game, my subconscious immediately dismisses it as another one of those, and proceeds to avoid it at all costs. After months of denying the game even existed, guess who shows up with the game? My sister, tiny little Teeny. At first I was shocked. Every time Teeny came to me and started her Undertale spam, I'd do my best to ignore it, just block it out and go about my business. Eventually my resistance shattered as I started to notice the positive points behind that questionable theming. The music played a vital role in bringing me into respecting the game. Over time I knew everything about every character, the Gaster conspiracies, a long imperial ton of fanfics and headcanons, and Teeny and I even came up with some epic possible follow-ups for a sequel. And I still didn't get the game. This time, because I had already experienced almost everything there was in the game vicariously. That's the downside of games that hinge too much on storyline events. I didn't buy it, and I won't buy it. Something about it is still off. That soundtrack, though. I buy exclusively the soundtrack. Not every track's a masterpiece. And some tracks are hardly even listenable. But some pay for it all, and still qualify the game's soundtrack as a whole as a worthwhile purchase. So TLDR, the game has an amazing and dynamic storyline with immense replay value and a ton of humor combined with some of the best characters that could possibly be in that context. The theming's poor, though there really wasn't much of a choice given the concept of the game. Sometimes the game tries too hard to be funny and ends up being plain awkward, and the overall gloomy vibe of the game turns me completely off of it. Let's not forget the perfectly accurate label. By all N4 standards, I rate this game 10 out of 10, but I don't recommend it.